Welcome to the Den, the Dark Entertainment Network. I'm the Gothic Rose, and this is the hot mess of Hollywood. Yes, dear fiends of the Den, the Dark Entertainment Network is a channel where the news meets conspiracy theories. It makes babies in my brain and it comes out my mouth. We explore the darkest stories from the deepest corners of Hollywood and the world. If you like this sort of entertainment, be sure to like, follow, and hit that bell because I am not going to stop. Hello, dear fiends of the Den. We are back, and it is the hot mess of Hollywood because I have to keep talking about the verdict on the Diddy trial. And I have been posting on all of my social medias about how I feel, and I have gotten some insightful comments from people. Now, I am still on Facebook, so I have a lot of friends from high school, just older friends. It's a private page just for my nearest and dearest. And they have given me some incredible things to talk about. So we're going to look into their comments and what you guys think of those. Add your own comments to this because these comments opened my eyes. I am not using names, but I want you to read what people are feeling. So, first of all, I have to start with the fact that what the actual fuck was this trial about? Like, what was it about? Because I thought that it was going to be about him being some sort of cult leader, mob boss who had a harem of men and women that he trafficked across state lines against their will for these huge freak off parties that had to do with tons of celebrities and or politicians who obviously all did not want to be named. But that's not what we got. We got Diddy was on trial for being a pimp and he was found guilty of only the Mann Act, not sex trafficking and not RICO. Maureen Comey she blundered the whole case. And in my opinion, to not have any of his crimes against the women face any charges, they used Cassie and they used Jane Doe and basically forced them under oath to lay out intimate details of a certain time in their life. Now, it seemed consensual from what this was. Whether it was coerced consension, whether it was grooming, is a whole other issue. But these women were on trial and re-traumatized, and now their lives are in danger again instead of just quietly being able to heal from this. And these reasons are why women don't come forward, and these are the comments that I want to get to. Earlier today, I posted to Facebook, Diddy's trial is why women don't come forward. Stop effing asking us. And I meant it for the reasons that they literally put Diddy on trial for his own sex life. And these people were all compensated. Like I said, I was looking for something horrible. They painted him out to be a criminal. So, what I got in response from a male friend from high school who was one grade ahead of me wrote, "So, are we going to get into an argument on this? But the prosecution did a terrible job. Diddy is an abuser and an a-hole and an all-around terrible person, but he was charged with drugs, parties, racketeering, and there was no evidence of that. The charges filed and the burden of proof was not proven." And they definitely did. I wrote back, they did a horrible job. These high profile cases are a waste of taxpayer money, but to ask these women to come forward and literally put themselves on trial to expose trauma and not have a solid case is part of why I'm upset. These women were used like props for nothing. And I just feel that they really, really were, because it made no sense for them to have to testify to all of this and put themselves through that to get no conviction on the crimes against them, because Diddy, in my opinion, painted himself into a really gray area where it all really did, unfortunately for these women, look consensual. And I have this comment here, and this is a female friend, 1 year younger than me, and she writes, "Just my 2 cents. I don't think he was ever going to get convicted. I think he has too many high profile people on his list, and they don't want that coming out. So I think the questioning was strategic, not to open any doors as to who was in attendance at these parties. I could be totally wrong, but that's just my opinion. I do not think you are wrong. I think you make such an incredibly poignant point that what was the point of this trial, to try and put one man in prison for these crimes that he supposedly committed with all of these other people, yet you don't want to name them? That's why it then turned into a trial about his personal sex life. And I know way more about Diddy than I ever wanted to, against my will. A friend from my graduating class, she writes, "Sorry, I'm stepping in. What he did to Cassie, he deserves punishment. That's it. But the trafficking is a witch hunt. Do you not see that famous people are under attack by the feds? Cassie is about to get it as well. Remember, she was a willing participant. That means she can be charged as well for the same thing that they are trying to send him to jail currently. She paid for travel for some of those individuals. Same situation. She went too far. And when they snatch that money from her, she will realize one thing doesn't mean the other." And that is true. Like I said, we were waiting for something huge, some huge revelation. And I learned how he likes his food. Again, TMI. And I'm not saying some of the things they said weren't depraved, but they were private and should have remained private, in my personal opinion, because money exchanged hands. I then wrote this. Let me explain my upset. I meant upset feelings with the Diddy trial. It's not what he did. It's not who he did. It's not any of that. It's the fact that the prosecution sucked and their case had more holes than Swiss cheese. They forced women who were traumatized by him, whether it was consensual or not, to come forward and speak about this time in their lives, to supposedly put a man behind bars when they had no solid case. Now these women are in danger all over again, rather than moving on with their lives in a healthy way. The prosecution used and abused them worse than Diddy, because it was all private until this trial, except for the Cassie video, which was horrible. These ridiculous high profile cases are a waste. Can we just feed and house people and give them health care and let adults do their weird ish in private, so I don't have to know anything about it? I know too much about Diddy unnecessarily. Now, to this, a friend of mine that I met in my college days, she writes, "The problem was the charges they brought forward. They would have won if they charged him with abuse, but trafficking and racketeering were a stretch." And it is so true. We were expecting a much more dynamic case with all of these twists and turns, naming everybody on the planet. And then she writes, "What made me more mad was the female defense attorneys celebrating. As a woman, how can they be okay with the abuse Cassie and the other women endured? I know it's their job, but I could never." And there's a lot to be said with that too. Maybe these women felt that Cassie and the other women were beneath them somehow and deserved this kind of abuse because they took money for these adult acts, which again is no one's business, not even the courts, unless someone dies from it, you know? But if there's money being exchanged, it's a business transaction. I can't even believe I'm like defending, I'm not defending Diddy. I'm defending the fact that I don't understand what this trial was about, because he violated the Mann Act, and if they wanted to put him away for longer, they just should have done not the racketeering charges. They just ended up dropping charges. It looked really bad for them. It just looked really bad. Then there is the conspiracy theory started by Kanye back in 2022 that Diddy is a Fed. So there's a resurfaced clip from an October 2022 episode of the Drink Champs podcast. And Kanye accused Diddy of being a Fed, which is the slang term for federal informant, if you did not know. He says, quote, "The reason why you gotta talk is because you did a deal. You effing Fed. That's why you've got to come at me. because part of the deal for you to be able to do all that and get out of jail is that you promised you are going to pull my card. And the clip was pulled shortly after airing due to backlash over all of his other inflammatory remarks, most of them probably anti Semitic. But the video resurfaced in 2024 amid Diddy's legal troubles, including all of these charges: racketeering, sex trafficking, coercion, none of which were proven. And it's just ridiculous. So, of course, these comments gained all of this renewed attention, and Kanye tried to show up at the courthouse, which tension and Kanye is so crazy, and he was turned away. But this fueled speculation about his involvement or motives. Like, was he there to support Diddy, and was he there to maybe, I guess, intimidate the jury in some way, or was he there to intimidate Diddy? Either way, he got turned away. Now, Kanye also collaborated with Diddy's son, Christian King Combs, on a track called Diddy Free. And it includes lyrics like F the world, critics, and the witness, face clean. They trying to dirt the image. I'm sorry that I don't sound like Kanye when I try to say this. But this suggests that Kanye may have shifted from accusing Diddy to supporting him. And don't forget that he had North on a track with Diddy. So it's wild. I'll be honest, I mean, the trial could have been much less dramatic, like my friend said, had they just charged him with abuse or simply the Mann Act and see if he was going to make some sort of a plea deal, because I really was thinking this was an Epstein kind of case. Like, there's a list, there's all of these, celebrities, and there's all of these politicians who have been involved. Now, I could a little bit about this interview that I was looking at. This interview was with a lawyer who claimed that she was contacted about a pornographic tape allegedly involving Sean Diddy Combs and a more high profile person. So, Ariel Mitchell Kidd, an attorney representing one of Diddy's accusers, said she was approached by someone trying to sell a tape featuring Diddy and another individual who was more high profile than him, and the only people more high profile than A plus celebrities are A plus plus list politicians. She described the video was pornographic in nature and claimed that she had seen stills from it, confirming the identity of the other person. But we don't know who that person is, because this video was allegedly filmed at Diddy's former Atlanta home, and the high profile individual did not appear to know that they were being recorded, which is what I thought this whole trial was going to be about. Individuals who may or may not have been drugged or drunk or under the influence, either because they consented to being under the influence or did not, taped without their knowledge to bribe them to get them to do what you want. Instead, it was Diddy pimped out some people and paid them. So, Mitchell Kidd said that the situation about the video itself resembled a catch and kill operation, and that is where any damaging material is suppressed in exchange for money and silence, and that could be by the person who has the material themselves, or they could catch and kill at the level of journalism so it doesn't get into the papers. So it goes deeper. The tape is reportedly one of several being shopped around Hollywood, potentially implicating other celebrities. And the lawyer emphasized that the person in the video was clearly visible and the footage would have had career ending consequences if released. So, if this thing was released, who knows what would have happened to this person. Now, the politician closest to Diddy that we know of is Eric Adams, who gave him the key to the city and then took it back, and also was indicted himself and will not step down and is still running for mayor of New York City, even though he is a total screw up. If you're looking for information on this article, it was on News Nation, and it was during an episode of the Banfield show hosted by Ashley Banfield, and it aired on September 27th, 2024. So this is really interesting, and this is what I thought. The trial was going to be about. I'm sure you did too, so I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments, and thank you for joining me on this hot mess of Hollywood in the Den. And of course, thank you to everyone who commented on my TikToks with this as well. If you guys are interested, head over to the Gothic Rose on TikTok. I will link it in the description, and check out all of the incredible comments that people have left, because each comment helps you learn something. And it's good to know what people are feeling, especially about a trial this polarizing. I am the nerd who loves research, and if you do have any tips for me, please email me at welcome to the den podcast at gmail.com. If you enjoy this content and even pettier content on my hot mess of Hollywood, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And thank you for joining me in the den.